Carbon dioxide is building up in our atmosphere and threatening our future. But can innovators in science find a way to save our planet? We're going on a journey around the globe in search of answers. We'll meet a Nobel Prize-winning scientist on the Canadian prairies, explore a mega project in the North Sea, and follow an experiment with world-changing potential in the heart of New York City. What will the future look like? And who are the people inventing it? Brilliant thinkers, cutting-edge research, backyard inventors on the very fringes of science. This is where tomorrow is born. This is Innovation Nation. It's one of the biggest challenges mankind has ever faced. Our reliance on fossil fuels releases a constant stream of CO2 into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. If we do nothing, the results could be catastrophic. But switching off our CO2 emissions overnight is impossible. Our modern way of life would grind to a halt. So what can be done to avert catastrophe? Can we slow or even reverse the damage before it's too late? This is Times Square, the heart of New York City. With more than 10 million residents and as many as 1 million vehicles coming and going every day, the largest city in the United States is no stranger to a prime source of human-produced CO2, transportation. Cars, trucks, airplanes, trains and ships contribute more than 10% of global CO2 emissions. But what if there was a way to capture all of this CO2, not at the source, but after it had been released and dispersed into the atmosphere? Meet Professor Klaus Lackner, an innovator who's passionate about finding a way to deal with our CO2 problems. For inspiration, he looks to Mother Nature.
The tree is very good at doing what it does. It pulls CO2 out of the air, but it spends really most of its effort on converting that CO2 into useful tree materials. And what I realized early on is we are not trying to make wood or things like that. We want to just collect the CO2 so that we can dispose of it, we can get rid of it.
His innovation, an artificial tree. One that's more efficient at capturing CO2 than a real tree. But mimicking Mother Nature is no easy task. Working with researcher Alan Wright at Columbia University, the first hurdle was finding the right material. They soon zeroed in on a membrane often used in water purification. The membrane, it turns out, can absorb CO2 directly from the air quickly and efficiently. Next came the design, Mother Nature again providing the perfect example.
How do I make sure that the air actually gets through it? And I think there the eureka moment was to say, oh, this is just like the leaves on a tree, because that's what they do. You do it like a tree does it, have leaves and stand in the wind.
And we have to increase the surface area that we expose to the air. And we do that by cutting it into strips, as opposed to keeping one big sheet. The membrane that we have today is configured so that it looks very similar to the branch of an evergreen tree. And that has been the origin of its nickname, the artificial tree.
A number of small-scale prototypes arrange the membrane's needles around a central trunk or branch. But can these small artificial trees absorb and release CO2 more efficiently than a living organism? As a demonstration, 3 prototypes are placed in the heart of Times Square, where they can collect CO2 in one of the densest urban locations in North America.
This particular material will pick up CO2, and it will take about an hour for that branch to get fully loaded with CO2.
Could massive forests of these man-made trees be part of our future landscape? While the demonstration unfolds, other innovators around the globe are taking a different approach to capturing unwanted CO2. And sometimes that means going after it at another prime source, the power plant. This is Saskatchewan, Canada. Known for its vast open spaces and sparse population, it's also home to a maverick of innovation. Meet Dr. Malcolm Wilson, an unassuming scientist with world-changing ideas. It's here in the remote Canadian prairie that Malcolm hopes to invent a better future.
What's going to happen if we don't do something? What are the impacts of climate change going to be? There is no opportunity to say no or let's wait. It's really making the changes as soon as possible so we don't run into those tragedies in the future.
Malcolm believes that one of our biggest problems is the use of coal to generate electricity.
Okay, so what I'm holding here in my hand is about 1.5 ounces of coal. The electricity produced from this piece of coal will run this 100-watt light bulb for about half an hour. So a lot of energy in this coal. But what this translates to is that the average household is going to be using about 40,000 pounds of coal a year to provide all of its energy needs.
When coal is burned for electricity, it emits a gas containing sulfur, nitrogen, oxygen, and CO2. In a coal plant, this is called the flue gas, sent skywards through large stacks. A single stack at this plant will release thousands of tons of CO2 every day. Multiply that by thousands of coal plants worldwide. And coal use is actually on the rise. China is building the equivalent of 2 new coal plants a week. India isn't far behind. Once these sleeping giants awake, once they burn as much coal per capita as North Americans do, our CO2 fears could become a global nightmare.
So coal's here to stay. What we need now is a technology that allows us to continue to use coal, but without an impact on the climate.
To search for a solution, Malcolm helped set up the International Test Centre for CO2 Storage, located at the University of Regina. Their initial research is on display in this lab. A special chemical solvent called an amine is actually able to absorb any CO2 gas that passes through it. This prototype shows how it might work on a coal-fired power plant. A simulated coal gas is first scrubbed of impurities, then passed through the amine. Once the amine is fully loaded with CO2, the process is reversed. The amine is heated, releasing the captured CO2 in pure form for potential storage.
The quest here is to come up with the holy grail of amines, an amine that's cheap to produce, that's very durable, doesn't break down during the process, and one that uses a minimal amount of energy to get the CO2 back again. So that's our holy grail, that's where we're aiming for, and at each step of the way we're getting a little closer.
The team is ready to move to the next level, to show their technology at work on a portion of an actual coal-fired power plant. In New York City, our artificial trees are back in the lab. And what if we could store all our captured CO2 out of harm's way deep beneath the ground? Or better yet, turn it into a renewable fuel source of its very own. The amount of CO2 in our atmosphere has grown by 30% in the past 2 centuries, contributing to global warming. The burning of fossil fuels is blamed for most of the rise, but a quarter of it is attributed to deforestation. In New York, scientists are hoping to counter this effect with a new kind of tree, this one man-made. After an hour of collecting ambient air in Times Square, the 3 small prototype trees are ready to be transported back to the lab for evaluation. Amazingly, releasing captured CO2 is as simple as adding water.
We need to get the carbon dioxide off so we can reuse it again and again and again. And what we do is to take that brush and put it in a little closed cylinder and get it wet.
The artificial trees start to off-gas immediately, and CO2 levels inside the sealed chamber rise. In an hour, each tree releases about 1/4 of a litre of the CO2 it absorbed outside in Times Square. Once dry, they're